As part of our Skills Week on World of Railways and BRM, today, as Friday, is Accurascale Day. And we've been having a chat with Fran about the first 5 years of Accurascale. And we've got another history element or historical artifact with us now in the shape of Paul Isles on the R&D side. Now, Paul, people know you from stands and shows over the years, but you are part of the personable face of Accurascale anyway. So thanks for having a chat with us today. And sorry about the wardrobe duplication.
I think, well, I'm glad I got the memo in time.
Yeah.
Otherwise, the salmon pink one would have just shot everything.
Now then, obviously you're sitting there in your office, and we'll come to that big lump behind you a little bit later on. I'm intrigued by that, but okay. So, well, being honest, a lot of us know that sort of like you jumped ship, sort of like with your experience. So how long ago was that now?
2.5 years ago, just about now.
Right.
Was it September 2020 I came across?
Yeah.
As you do in the middle of a pandemic.
Yeah.
One desk for one company on the Friday and another desk for another company on the Monday morning. It's same desk.
Okay. So why did you choose to go to Accurascale then?
I think the best. When you're doing researching, and I am a researcher, or just a researcher, possibly, it's always good to know that everything that you pour into research can be replicated on the model that you're working on. And the best way to ensure that happened was to join up with Accurascale. It's a move that suited me in so many ways. But yeah, it's been a great move for me, and hopefully it's been a great move for the lads as well.
Yeah. Well, I mean, as touched on when we were talking to Fran, that it's business with leaner overhead. So there you are sitting in the Kent office of Accurascale.
Southeastern office, mate. Well, for the time being, anyway.
Sorry. Right. Okay. You're going regional now. So yeah. Okay. So you were dumped in sort of like pretty much sort of like the deep end, and obviously a challenging time in the middle of COVID and lockdowns. Must have been a lot to get your head around at that time.
Yes, it was, but it's always nice, as you say, to go in at the deep end. I think I landed and was given the MDO MDV Coil A project to bring home. Which was at first EP stage, I think, when I took it over. Then I had the siphons to work on as well. And while I was working on that, I was pitching other projects. So, things like the Mark 1 subs and the Chaldrons were my first sort of pitches.
Yeah. Now the Chaldrons, obviously, that was an interesting choice. I don't think many people saw that one surfacing.
Well, niche product maybe, but it's one of those models that I've long been intrigued by. It started, I think, interest would have started when I was working on the Packet, and ideas about what can we work on that will run with the Packet, if you like. But yeah, it's when you see it in model form, and I was thinking, yeah, these are great. These will make a perfect model. This is run anywhere territory. Run it behind any small industrial. There's no reason not to buy a pack of these at all.
Yeah.
And then you start, and you just remember things that you forgot. I remember going up north and seeing the remnants of these things kicking around Seaham. As a kid, and it's just, I like the industrial side. I like the quirky, but at the same time, you've got to have that business head on as well. What is going to sell? What is going to make you money?
Yeah. Now there must have been a bit of a challenge there, obviously, sort of like getting towards the design side. but they really are very small, these wagons, compared to obviously sort of like main era modelling. So
well, even compared to a 16-tonner, they're small, but they don't seem small when you stood alongside. You know, it's 4 tons of solid wood planking that and iron that sits alongside you. So yeah, they don't seem that small when you measure it up.
but a bit too small to stick a great big tension lock coupling at each end.
Yeah, which wasn't going to happen. I mean, you know, like everybody else, built kits, and you build a kit up. That's great, and then oh god, I'm not going to stick a tension lock on that, which is why, you know, adding the magnetic chain just seemed right, the right way of doing things. And you know, again, being small and being industrial and being, if you like, a new offshoot things, it's a time to bring in new ideas, and that's part and parcel of being at Accurascale. It's sitting down and thinking, well, this is what I want to achieve. How can we go about achieving it?
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, the magnetic coupling's a great idea. It can be a bit of a wrestling match, sort of like when they're on the layout with them. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose we've all been used to, you know, tension lock couplings, and you can unlock them, you can hook them out or run them over an uncoupling ramp. But yeah, why spoil the shit for a ha'porth of tyre? You know, we could stick a tension lock on there, and it would have been part and parcel of, you know, getting what we've always had. But I think they look better for having the coupling chains on there.
Mm. What I find interesting about them is that you have got northeastern interests, it seems. I mean, a lot of people say that that region's neglected.
Well, I mean, I think it is neglected. I could do a lot more in the northeastern region. I'd love to do a lot more. Yeah, I've got family up there. Family have come from there, so you know, whilst I am a product of the home counties, it is a region I love, and it's, again, it's a region based on industrialisation. It's a lot of variety. I think the NER is one of the unsung heroes of the railway world, to be honest.
Mm. Well, I can see obviously that's reflected obviously in sort of like an ambitious project there to tackle. But what are your other interests on the railway? Oh, you said the industrials, yeah. It's great.
Industrial railways intrigue me because, you know, it's big machinery, it's dirt, it's wagons, locomotives, everything is done for a reason. They're used as tools, you know, and the tool is used to serve a function. And I think that's what I like. It's fairly simple. You need a loco or a wagon to do a job, and that's
Yeah.
what's done. So that's why I like the industrial side of things. And then other jobs, you know, or other projects, they creep up on you. You know, there's a couple of things that I'm working on at the moment that I am very interested in. But some jobs come along that you've already got an interest in. Some jobs come along that you develop an interest in. And some jobs you work on, and at the end of it, you're still trying to work out whether you're interested in it.
Right. So, okay, I mean, obviously, as a researcher, you've got a bright idea today. What do you go and do tomorrow to start to move it along?
A lot of reading. There's
Mm.
always a lot of reading. You can pick up something and say, well, I want to produce this loco. And if you're lucky, there'll be a lot written about it, and you can understand what makes that loco tick, chuff, however you want to put it. And I think you've got to understand the loco or the item of rolling stock, and you say develop a sort of a broad base, where it ran, why it ran, what it ran with, what areas it ran in, why it was used, how it was used. And with that sort of background, you're better placed to be able to research the gubbins, if you like, where to go for drawings, who to approach, who might have them. It's not everything resides in the search engine at the National Railway Museum. Sometimes you have to go other places, and there's a wealth of material and people and societies out there that will hold drawings that you can then start to put a little bit of flesh on what you're researching. But I think understanding is one of the key areas. When you do a project, you've got to understand that project to make it work.
And I suppose as you're going through that process in parallel with it, that it's revealing its viability or not as a commercial product.
That's it. It's you might take a subject and think, well, that's grand, but as far as I know, it's only got one livery, or it was only used in one area, or it was never changed. And you're always looking for options to extend the tooling, to sweat the tooling. So, if you start to read and understand a piece of rolling stock, you might discover that the chassis was used under something else, or a set of changes were made that enable you to model another aspect of it. So if we take things like the Peckett, let's take the little W4. That there were different cabs, chassis were set at different heights. You've got different domes, you've got different safety valves, different chimneys, different buffering arrangements, and then you start to build up. Well, if I do that, I can change that, and that will give us another option. And if I change that, that gives me an extra livery. And you can go mad. And we do like to go a bit mad at Accurascale, but even so, you have to, sometimes you have to rein yourself in from what you're doing.
Yeah, well, I've seen that with sort of like chassis designs that have commonality with other wagons in particular, that there's sensible use of assets, or obviously you sort of like have it in mind that chassis will be useful potentially for X, Y, and Z as well.
Yeah, I mean the MDOs, the MDVs, the Coil A's are a really good example of that. It's how do you make the most of what might at first thought look a little bit limited, and then once you start stretching out, you've got a really useful tooling suite. And when you're designing, you start with a base, so you will model an unfitted MDO, and then once you've got that in place and that correct, whether that's to the drawings, to the scan, to the photographs, to the surveys, whatever, and then once you've got that, you can then start changing elements and bringing other elements in.
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously, just last week that we saw sort of like further announcements on the MDOs, MDVs, sort of like revisions after the first release. How complex is it to go back and make improvements like that?
It's, if you tool with the idea of improvements being made, or of elements being made, it makes it easier, because you're only working on a sub assembly rather than a full part. So if we go back more than a few years, everything was a one-piece molding. Handles, handrails, bang plates, everything like that would be molded onto the body, which then, if you're going to make changes, makes it a far bigger job. But if they're separate items and there's room on the tool, you can either amend, take metal off, put metal back on, or scrap the part and use another part of the tool to cut in, an extra part.
Yeah, something that's the opposite of that, and I spoke to Fran about it in our other chat, that there's part of the marketplace that sort of like wants, more basic models, more durability, and probably lower prices sort of like to go with it. So what's your standpoint on that part of the marketplace?
I think there's an element for it, and as long as you manage expectations, and as long as you maintain the core values of your brand, I see no reason for not doing that, because it's a complex market, and you trying to define areas of the customer base is an interesting exercise. You can break it down where you've got collectors who remove the item from the box. You've got enthusiasts who take up the vast majority, who will run from those that will just run a roundy and just want to play trains, if you like, to those that want to replicate every detail of a certain junction or area. And then you've got modelers, the people that will buy a model with a view to making something else. So they'll buy topically, they'll buy a B16 because they then want to make a streamlined version of it. Or they'll take something like a coil B because they then want to do a taupe or something along those lines. But yeah, I mean, modelers, enthusiasts, collectors, they form the basis of the hobby, but there's so many levels within that. I mean, modeling is anything from adding a bit of buffer detail to a full-on conversion. And like I say, an enthusiast is anyone from a roundy to a full area replication. Collectors will be from a bloke that wants to, or a lass that wants to collect Christmas wagons, to someone that wants to replicate all the running stock from a particular area. It's such a broad church, but I know I've wandered away from the question, but
no, you've given me a great idea. I think you should have St. Patrick's Day wagons each year. Come on, you've got the Guinness casks. I mean, you're halfway there.
Cask, haven't you?
Yeah. So we'll put that to Fran. See what he reckons.
You're assuming that it's not already in there in the plans.
Yeah. Have to keep an eye open in March. Yeah. So.
But yeah, I don't see anything wrong. But if you're going to produce a basic D-spec model and you've got an existing brand, then you need to create a separate branding for that item that's at a different price point. That, because everyone's got to start somewhere. And if you take a molded body locomotive, that's probably not going to appeal to the collector, but it will appeal to the enthusiast because there will be people starting out in the hobby. And it will appeal to a modeler for whatever reason. It might be someone that wants to dip their toe into modeling for the first time, that wants to add detail, that wants to convert it to something else, that wants to try weathering, that wants to strip it back and put another livery on it. And I think that's an area of the market that can be approached sensibly, but it doesn't mean hoying out old tooling that's inaccurate. It doesn't matter whether you're starting from a base level or you're doing a detailed model, it should still be accurate.
Now, indeed, we now have an accurate model of you yourself on bended knee with your ruler out.
No, that's Tim, the designer.
Oh, sorry, that's Tim on the knee. Right, okay, yeah. But all the same, you're immortalised now, and been seeing on RM Web that you've been going on your travels around the country and around Europe. So my question is, what's the worst job that you've had to go and get your ruler out on?
The call it bow-ended coach at Didcot.
Yeah.
I did that. Steve and I went when I was at Hornby, and I think creatures had died in there and died eating something really bad. and then gone elsewhere to die and been bought back by something else that died in there. God, it was rank. It was utterly rank in there. There's been a few close calls over the years. A degree of alarming flexibility on the top of a 6-wheel carriage at the Bluebell. Canvas roofs flex quite a lot. That's interesting. Then there was the Duchess at Birmingham Museum, which as it was inside, I didn't think I'd need my boots. I thought I'd wear my trainers while I was up on top of that measuring. And of course, it's been polished to within an inch of its life, and it was like trying to walk on sheet ice up there. That was interesting. I saw my life flash before me several times there. But they're all fun. I mean, that's the thing. Always have fun going out and measuring these things. And it might get soaking wet, and it might be utterly rank and falling apart and all the rest of it. But it's always a crack to go out and meet existing contacts and catch up with people, but also meeting new people and just getting other views on how we're perceived in the hobby.
Yeah. Oh, you do it because you love it, really, don't you, really? I suppose we're all of that ilk.
Absolutely. And I was 10 odd years ago, I was a little bit more flexible than I am now. Maybe, I might not be. We need to bring some youngsters into the game, so I think they bounce better when they hit the concrete.
Oh, dear. So obviously, once you've gone and done sort of like you've done all the research and you've taken the ruler out there, what are the next stages that you actually go through? I suppose moving towards the design side.
Yeah, I mean, once you've got all your drawings together, that you've got all your history, you know what your variations are, because obviously that has a bearing on what you're doing. If it's a loco, you may have had it scanned. But the next thing is the design brief. It's where you bring everything together. It's where you lay out your thought process, how you want to approach something, where you start it from, what changes you make, what areas you're likely to want to swap, and all of these thoughts go into a design brief. Now, the different companies, the design brief, quote document, designer's aid, whatever you like to call it, and then that goes together, and that's what is worked on by the CAD engineers. They will take that. They will know exactly what you're trying to achieve, and will come up with something that hopefully is going to meet that need.
Well, yeah, you'll get something. It could be 100% right. It could be sort of like 100% wrong when you get it back, and then obviously you've got to check and revise, haven't you?
That's it. Yeah, and revisions are important, and we've all there are pros and cons to every designer, CAD engineer that I've ever worked with. Some are strong in certain areas, some are stronger in others. Some learn quicker, some have an understanding, some don't, and it's you've got to communicate that you've got to communicate what you want clearly. And things do get lost in translation sometimes, but I think once you've got that document down and you've laid your thoughts out on what you want to achieve, it makes it easier to achieve that. Now, obviously, that's just in creating the shape. The engineering side of it is something else. So you as part of that process, you need to work out what motor you want in it, what gearing you want in it, what speed you want to achieve, what weight you want to hit, what lighting, what sound, what DCC functions. That's an entirely separate but concurrent process that you go through.
Yeah, I mean, obviously that's all very technical stuff, But then there's the art side of it as well, translating sort of like your research into potential liveries, and then that side of it as part of the R&D as well, isn't it?
It is, and that, you know, that's something that suits my background, because obviously I came into this business from print and press, so illustration was part of it. But everyone picks it up as they go along, and that's a really nice part of the job. I could sit in Illustrator keying up liveries all day long, and yeah, they do tend to take all day long to key up. So yeah, I mean, there's many elements to the job, and some parts you take to better than others. But yeah, it's livery research is just as involved, and you can tear your hair out. But it's the old adage, isn't it? Once you've decided what you want to model, get as many photographs of what you're modeling as possible. And things vary between, you know, not just the same loco or wagon, but you know, different days can have different looks.
Because that's the thing. I mean, taking a wagon as an example, largely the decoration will be the same on both sides. But I mean, obviously, when you're looking at potential numbers and decoration from a wagon, I suppose you think, well, was it different on the other side? Well, there's no evidence, so
No,
yeah.
so you know, it's a lot of that side of it is just taking a common sense approach, and you know, lick your finger, put it in the air, and see what you think. Yeah, I mean, if you've got pictures of both sides of a wagon or a loco taken on the same day at the same time, well, that's wonderful. You know, you do a lap of the office and jump her over the top of the head, and you know, happy days. On other occasions, no, you don't get that. But you know, panels tend to go in the same place. Yeah, the lettering tends to be applied in the same place. Now, obviously, as wagons get older, things get changed, and you have to start thinking about, well, do we shift that position if there's a bit of graffiti? Because obviously we do introduce, you know, those little elements, you know, the chalk marks where you can, you know, if you've got a photo of a wagon, and you know, we'll use Paul Bartlett's excellent website as an example. There you've got a picture of wagon A taken on that day. That's what you want, that's the condition you want to model it in. I can create a livery diagram based on that, and it's got some big chalk marks on the side. Well, that's part and parcel of the wagon at that point, so why not include them? Would they have been included on both sides? Well, probably not, or they might be in a the same thing might be there but in a different position. So you do have to take a bit of a creative approach, and you know, you run that risk of someone somewhere having a photo of that wagon taken on the same day from the opposite side that shows you're wrong. Well, if that's the case, bang, busted. But you know, it would be, but equally it would be nice for that to have a look at that. And you know, that's the big thing, that for all the access to, you know, people like Paul Bartlett and Trevor and all the other railway photographers and Flickr and all the rest of it, equally there's loads of cigar boxes with prints in that never see the light of day, and I find that's a shame. You know, that sort of material, it's not just, you know, us as modelers, it's they're historic. You know, there's images there that will never see the light of day outside of the person that's taken them, and will one day, you know, be thrown out, will landfill, will be burnt, and that's a shame. That's a real shame.
And obviously, in parallel with as you move on through those parts, that CAD translated into tooling, and then you start getting samples back. So you have to take a look at that as well.
That's it. Yeah, you know, they come back and you look at it and you think, well, that's not what I envisaged. Or it's certain factories, certain people are easier to deal with in that respect than others. I mean, yes, the aim is to get it right in CAD sign-off so that when you get the EPs back, they're correct. Sometimes you get them back and you think, I missed that, and you have to change it, and that's, you know, that adds expense to the job. It also adds time to the job as well. But you know, it's a very insular hobby workplace, and you get so caught up in things that sometimes you can't see the wood for the trees. So mistakes do happen, but it's catching those mistakes. So yes, you have to look at your EPs and your deco samples with the same fresh eyes that you started the project off.
Yeah. And also as well, in parallel with all of that, that you've got other projects. You don't just sort of like stick with one all the way through, twiddling your thumbs for it to come back. You've got so many things on the go that it's admirable if you've got that mindset of being able to switch from one to the other and remember where you were and manage your changes and all those processes.
Absolutely. And if you come across anyone that in this industry that's capable of doing that, please let me know. Because there's times that, yeah, I mean, sometimes you're an expert on the subject for the time that it takes to do that subject, and then you move on to something else. Now, as we are at Accurascale, yeah, there's 4 or 5 things going on at the same time, usually at different phases, hopefully. So yes, time allocation and awareness. And because the funny thing is that by the time something is announced, we're already working on something else. So you kind of have to refresh your memory on what it is, because I've moved on to something else. I've got, you know, other information has been replaced in my mind. And, you know, because getting to that age where, you know, birthdays and pins get replaced every time you get a new piece of information.
Yeah. Well, I suppose, I mean, you've got some short projects and some long projects as well underway simultaneously. But I mean, obviously, when it gets to the big day when sort of like the final production ones land and they're getting out there into modelers' hands, how do you feel then on that day?
Bloody tense. You know, you can't wrap it up any other way, Andy. It's for everything that you put in, and you're confident in what you've done. And obviously, we don't approach things half-assed. Everything is tied down. You think you've got everything, but you know, nothing's safe until it's in the hands of the people that we've made it for. And yeah, I'm not going to fib. It's quite tense. You know, we tend to do our announcements at midday. It hits RM Web, it hits Facebook, it hits Twitter, and it's you're like that. Did I get it right? Does it work? Does it run? You know, the EPs I had ran. The deco samples I had looked right.
Yeah.
But you know, the packaging samples that the factory sent me were right. Yeah. But you've got that element that was right when you had it in your hands, but now a load of stuff is coming over that you haven't seen, and you just you're trusting to luck, judgment, and just the gods of whatever you're working on.
Yeah, but I think as they say, you make your own luck anyway with what you've done before, rather than just crossing your fingers that it'll turn out right. So
yeah, very much so. And obviously the key to this is communication, and that's another nice aspect of Accurascale. We've, as a bunch of lads at Accurascale, we've all sat that side. We've all been, we've all gone down the model shop to buy whatever. We've all pre-ordered whatever. We've been there. We've experienced it, and so we try to conduct our business that way. And if something does go wrong, you just got to take responsibility for it. Talk to people and try your best to sort it out. Now, whether that's a chain missing that's loose in the box, or a tight motor, or an electrical failure, or bent box. It doesn't matter what it is. You have to own that and treat the customer with the same respect that you'd want to be treated yourself.
Yeah, well, I think your transparency, I mean, through the business in that regard is very, very evident. So yeah, I think it's good. But I mean, sort of like, well, obviously you've seen it from the other side, sort of like before you came. But why do you think people love Accurascale?
I think there is an element of people see the enthusiasm that we all hold for our company, our brand, our products. We're all of a similar approach to life. We've all got a sense of humor. We all enjoy a chat. We all enjoy talking to people in creating models that we want to see. I mean, that's it. We're basically creating models that we want and hoping people will buy them in whatever way, shape, or form. That's a bit simplistic, because obviously it is a business, and business is there to make money so that you can make more stuff. I think there is an element that, being an Irish company, people perceive that you're having fun anyway. It's a thing. Everyone thinks the Irish are a fun nation, and they are.
Yeah.
And we're fitting in. People like myself and Steve, both Steves. Everyone has to be called Steve. I'm sorry, I bucked the trend there, but
Yeah,
apparently I've got to have my name changed at some
call them
point.
Pixie and Purvis to differentiate. Yeah.
So there's that element, but in building the team, Stephen, Fran, and Patrick have come across, have picked people that have the same approach that they do, and so as a result, I think that's what. And there's that element of being the plucky underdog, if you like. Are we seen as the rebels? We have our jokes internally, but we are upsetting the status quo because we've come in with a new approach.
Well, that's something that I kicked it off with when I was talking to Fran earlier, that you've been disruptors to a degree in the marketplace. I heard somebody after sort of like year one sort of like call Accurascale the rock stars of the modelling world, but as I said, I prefer to think of it as sort of like model railway manufacturing turned up to 11. So it's
I like that reference.
But there's things that you do right as well. Because we touched on it talking to Fran, is everything else that's not the model. So whether it's the marketing, communications, engagement, the boxes, the artwork, and as important as the standards and specification.
Absolutely, it's if you're dropping a wedge of cash, which, let's face it, anything in this hobby is dropping a wedge of cash, then you want to feel that's that you're getting value for money. Now, it doesn't matter whether you're spending 75 quid on a box of 3 wagons, or you're spending 100 odd quid on a all singing, all dancing class 92. You want to feel that your hard-earned cash is reflected in what you're buying, and it's why Apple works so well, because it's it's not style over substance, but it's style plus substance. And if you've got something nice, you want to present it nice, and you want to tell people that you're presenting it nice and that it's nice, and so everything sort of falls in behind it.
Yeah, interesting. And I think it's been nice to get that insight sort of like from you, Paul, about your life. It's far from an easy, simple life, that you have an awful lot that's going on. And I'm sure you've got an awful lot on the go at the moment. So interesting stuff for the next year.
Yes, I mean, I know everybody says this, but we have. I mean, we've got more steam coming. We've got more diesel coming. We've got more electric coming, and we've got more other stuff coming. And sometimes the other stuff is more interesting than what. But yeah, we've probably got projects that will cover the entire spectrum of railway modelling. If not in the next 12 months, certainly within the next 18. Some really big projects, some small projects, and a lot of projects in between. And there will be disruption. There'll be brand new items that haven't been made before. There will be items that have been made before that need updating. And there will be items you didn't even know that you wanted.
Yeah. Oh, that's dangerous territory, that is. Yeah. So anyway, people now recognise your face, can put sort of like the face to the name, and come and see you obviously on the standard shows this year. As Fran said, the next show's coming up, obviously Glasgow, and then Ali Pali in March.
That's it. Yeah, I love that side of the business. Always have done. Yeah, it's getting out there and meeting people and talking and catching people's enthusiasm, and it's a different world to what it was at the previous place. You know, I'm still trying to work out why so many people like us, and I haven't had the walk by abuse from 40 yards out, but I'm sure that'll come in time.
Yeah, give it time, mate.
But you know, it's just there's some great people in this hobby, and there are people with great stories that they just want to talk about, and yeah, it's all part and parcel. You can't just be a faceless corporate box outputter. Yeah, you've got to engage with your customers, and when you enjoy engaging with your customers, that's what makes a difference.
Yeah, so people can come up with their bright ideas and come and see you at Glasgow and Ali Pali and saying, I want one of these. So.
Yeah, I'd buy 3.
That many? Right, okay. Oh, that's brilliant, Paul. Thank you very much indeed for your time today and giving us an insight there. And enjoy the year.
Thanks very much, Andy. Good to talk to you, mate.